Alright everybody, welcome back. Episode number 8, I believe, for Web Walk, or Walk with Web, where I take and try and get my 10 to 15,000 steps in, whatever I haven't gotten throughout the day, and finish them off in the evening. It's something I really like to do just to decompress my mind, vent, think. I've done it for years. I love walking. Just allows me to be outside because I really struggle with being cooped up indoors. And this gives me the opportunity to share all the weird stuff that goes inside my brain, right? So tonight my wife isn't with me, she's at work. That's kind of a bummer. That's another one of the reasons why I go on extended walks, because now that our kids are older and all have basically their own hobbies and own lives and stuff like that, even our 15-year-old, what 15-year-old wants to hang out with their parents too often? So this keeps me busy, keeps my brain out of trouble, keeps me from causing trouble on the internet like Facebook or Instagram and arguing with people, which is something I do like to do, especially when I see stupid stuff. But anyway, I had several ideas about what I wanted to talk about tonight, but due to something that come up as recent as today, which was kind of a reaction to an interaction I had a few weeks ago. Obviously I'm not going to mention any names or anything like that. It wasn't anything bad, but I wanted to talk about your approach. And this can apply to any subject, any topic that you might want to go talk to somebody about, but it could be considered sensitive, right? And since pretty much everybody knows now what this channel is about, lifting, healthy living, nutrition, everything that goes along with that, this fits right in there. So I had approached somebody about helping them, coaching them, getting nutrition, things like that in line. A friend of mine, somebody who I want to see be successful, somebody who I already care a lot about, and I'd been thinking about how to approach it. And I'm just the kind of guy that, a lot of people say I'm blunt and honest. And what they're really doing is trying to mask the fact that they just want to be arrogant jerks and hide it behind, well, I'm just caring and I'm just telling you the truth. I can't count how many people I've come across and had interactions with that hid behind especially a lot of Christians, hid behind the idea of, well, we're supposed to be honest and I'm just telling you point blank truth. When the fact of the matter is, no, you're a jerk, and you cloaked it in some scripture to try and protect yourself about being a jerk. Okay, that's really what that come down to, and that's something I had to learn early on. 30 years ago when I became a Christian. This isn't about Christianity, so. But what I'm talking about is just those that have the mentality of I want to be truthful, honest, and then they use the word blunt. You can be blunt and not be an ass. You can be direct and be caring. You can be truthful and not be insulting, okay? Those things aren't hard to do. So if you're one of those kind of people who hide behind, I just want to be blunt and truthful and honest, and you just need to grow a spine, now what you need to do is grow a heart, okay? Sometimes I come up with topics just because of things I'm talking about on certain topics. But on the flip side of that, we also need to be willing to be approachable, to look at the person that's talking to us or trying to approach us with a topic or an idea or whatever it might be, some words of advice. And if it's a person that we trust and care about and means a lot to us, then we should automatically assume that they don't have ill intent or malicious thoughts about what they're wanting to talk to you about, right? So I'm not saying that this is coming from either side. What I'm saying is there's two sides to every story. There's two ways to go about this, and there's two people involved in interaction at least, right? So whichever side you might be on in any situation, whether you're the person that wants to give advice to somebody or you're the person that somebody wants to give advice to, we should always have the other person's, best interest at heart. And that's kind of what I want to cover here today, is the approach and what I've learned even from what has recently transpired. Things like this, especially dealing in the world of health and well-being and things like that, can easily be taken, if you're going to try and approach somebody, can easily be taken as mean, malicious, ill-hearted, whatever kind of description you want to put on it. And we really need to be careful about that. I picked up a wood screw off the street so somebody didn't drive the tire over it. But anyway, if we're going to approach somebody about something that concerns us, we need to first examine ourselves. Look at your own heart, look at your own thoughts, and ask yourselves, why do I really want to approach this person about it? Why do I want to help them? Why do I want to bring this thing to their attention? And if you're a person that genuinely tries to be honest with yourself and honest with other people, you're going to know right out of the gate if you're doing it for malicious intent. Maybe you are full of pride and you want to seem like you know something and you're superior to that person. If you know that you're given to that type of mentality, fix it and keep your mouth shut and don't go say anything to that person. Maybe you need to examine yourself. Are you wanting to do this because that person hurt your feelings and now you look at it as a way of payback? Again, you need to not do that. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort to be kind, and sometimes being kind means just keeping your mouth shut and not saying the thing that you want to say. So when you want to try and offer advice, especially when it comes to dealing with people's physique, health, overweight, underweight, it goes both ways too. I have a daughter that struggled with, not being able to gain weight and that type of thing, and people would say things like that. People that didn't even know her, say, "Hey, skinny, hey, slim," and after a while, especially a teenage girl, they're really going to get upset about that, and she did, And I have some other family members too, a niece who, took it to heart, these things that people are saying. And you might not have any ill intent at what you're saying, Maybe it's just a joke, maybe it's something you've always said. You got to stop and think, how is the other person taking what you're saying? I grew up in a certain side of the family, people just said what they wanted to say about whoever they wanted to say it to and didn't regard the feelings of that person, especially if you were a child or a teenager. They weren't brought up like that, and they never bothered to change it. And those things carry with a person for a long time. And, one of those people is me. I've carried and still carry at times some of the things that were said to me as a kid. And those things hurt and they stay with you a long time. And some of those comments are why I'm so adamant about trying to stay in shape physically, because of a lack of confidence and just the sting of words, right? Especially from people that are supposed to care about you and love you and things like that. And I'm not trying to out anybody. This isn't about me venting. It's just me giving an example. I know firsthand, and a lot of us probably do, what it's like to receive comments from people that you never would have thought would have said what they said it the way they said it, right? So that's one of the things first. If we want to give advice and counsel, offer help or whatever it is to somebody in the world of health and physique, why are you saying it? Ask yourself that. Why are you saying that? Okay? Secondly, have you developed a relationship with that person to where they would even consider you somebody willing to take advice from? Okay? That has a huge part in whether or not you have something to offer is going to be successful to the person that you're trying to offer it to. You have to prove yourself to somebody. Just because of a status or a relationship or a title, whatever it might be, does not mean that anybody owes you or obliged to you to automatic take your advice, agree with everything that you're saying, and not feel any kind of way about it. Okay? Earn the respect, earn the privilege to have somebody listen to what you have to offer. And that's exactly what it is. If you have wisdom, if you have knowledge and experience, and you want to share it, earn the ears and the hearts of the people you're wanting to share it to. You know, I'll throw it on the world of being a pastor, right? To me, one of the most important positions in the world is a true biblical God-fearing pastor who's willing to stand up there and preach Sunday after Sunday and care about people through the rest of the week. They need to prove themselves to the people that they wish to shepherd, right? If you're asking these people to take your interpretations, to take your counsel, your advice, listen to the life experience that you have to heart and apply it to their lives, you need to earn that heart to an extent, okay? I'm not talking, broad brush strokes here. There's certainly some caveats and nuance to this. But overall, what I'm saying is that when you're in a position to share with people your advice and your counsel and the like, you need to earn the hearts of the people. I feel the same way about being a parent, okay? I grew up, kids were seen and not heard. You disrespect, you lose your teeth. And I will just be out there and honest. There are many a times where I picked myself up off the floor because I expressed myself. I don't believe in that. My kids have always been allowed and able to express themselves to me about what they felt, thought, opinions on things, because they're human beings and they deserve it, okay? And as a parent, you owe it to your children to be the type of person they want to take advice from. Not because they're scared of you, not because you demand respect because of who you are. I've seen a lot of quote-unquote parents who, just because they carried the role and title of a dad or a mom, demanded respect, hell or high water, okay? I grew up with that kind of stuff. I grew up around that kind of stuff. And I have a very low tolerance and threshold for that type of parenting, if you will, okay? So, regardless of if you're the President of the United States, the pastor in a pulpit, or a mom and a dad in the home, a crew boss, a superintendent of a business, I'm not trying to pick on any certain individuals or any certain positions. I'm just giving you examples of leadership that require people to have people listen and follow, right? Well, if you want to be somebody that people listen to and follow, you need to earn that. Don't expect it to just be given to you. And that comes through days, months, years of being faithful, of being friendly, of being caring, of being present, of being there in these people's lives to make them want to listen to you, to take your advice. You prove by the way you live and behave and act and what you do for them that you genuinely care. And those are the people that are going to listen to you. And then those people will share their experience with other people they care about. Hey, Go and talk to this person about this subject. He knows and he cares. They don't care about what you know. They want to know how much you care. Okay? And I might be getting a little deep here, but hey, it's just the way I am, I guess. So if you want to be that kind of person, if you want people to listen to you, you need to prove yourself. And sometimes when you show up in a new situation, new group of friends, new group of people, maybe a new job position, you know, you're the new boss at a new company and they don't know anything about you, instead of walking out on the floor and standing on the desk, I guess, if you will, and demanding, hey, I'm the boss and you're going to do as I say because I'm the boss, right there you just lost everybody except for the butt kissers. All right, you just lost any kind of influence, any kind of impact, anything of value from that simple stupid statement. And again, I've experienced that a lot throughout my working career. And early on I learned in my own personal home life and in my early work life that I was not going to be that guy that just outright disrespected other people and automatically expected them to be on my level, whatever level I was on. You know, as a pipeliner for the last 33 years, I remember saying early on, because I dealt with some really hardcore old school boys back in the day. You know, in them days they was allowed to say whatever they wanted, insult you, insult your mom, put hands on you, which I never tolerated, so I got myself into a lot of situations. But you know, I had to deal with that kind of stuff. But I remember telling myself all the time, because I had the discipline to keep doing what I was doing, because it was my job. It was a good job, paid good money, you know, especially for a 19-year-old who was also a hothead, had a rough childhood. All right, well, it never seems to be uneventful when you're carrying a camera and talking into it with a microphone. So I just got stopped by another drunk who apparently thought I must have been some kind of famous vlogger. And he admitted to me that he liked to drink, and you could smell it on him. And he was broing me and everything like that and wanted to talk, and I don't know. Maybe I should have left it and recorded the whole thing, but it's probably good that I didn't. But anyways, I told him I had to get back to it. I'm dealing with a certain topic. Maybe I'll hook up with him another day. So basically, I don't think I'm going to take this path anymore. So anyways, like I was getting to, you know, even in that situation right there, you know, I could have just said, hey, you're drunk, leave me alone, I want nothing to do with you. But I was just nice, kind. You know, some of the ministries I've been involved with before, you know, I've worked in jails and I've worked with people with addiction problems in the past. I get it, okay? And that's how you have to do it, you know. Maybe someday I'll run into that guy in a grocery store and he'll realize that he was kind of acting a fool and he's got a real problem. Obviously he's got a problem. He even admitted he's got a drinking problem. And the sad thing was is he had his wife and little girls and neighbor all out in the yard just watching him kind of make a fool out of himself. But keeping in mind, you know, trying to get my bearings back, be the kind of person that people want to listen to is my point about where I left off at, right? Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what you do, be the type of person people want to listen to. Next, I want to kind of talk about, in the same vein, if you're wanting to approach people and talk to them about health and well-being and things like that. And this, you know, I want to make sure I say this in a way that it's not going to offend people, because again, like I said, you can be truthful and not be a jerk, right? If you're going to put yourself out there as somebody who has a lot to offer in the world of health, lifting, nutrition, those types of things, you should look the part, okay? you should look the part. Now, I don't have any certain type of look, you know, because there's all different types of physiques that are considered healthy, right? To me, it's being jacked. To my wife, it's being jacked. To some, it's being toned. To some, it's being slim and slender. You know, all those different types of things, right? Whatever it is, you need to have a certain appearance that you know what you're talking about. Now, does that mean that if you don't look the part, you don't have anything to offer and you don't know what you're talking about? Nope. But what it might mean is that you're going to have to work 3 times as hard to gain the ear of the people that you're trying to influence. That's what that means. So why make it harder on yourself to get people to listen to what you have to say, right? If you're going to preach something, you need to practice it. I can't tell you how many times I've been to a doctor and they want to talk to me about diet and health, and this has been a couple of chiropractors as well as, you know, regular family doctors. Want to talk to me about health and things like that, and they're 100 pounds overweight themselves. I had a chiropractor one time, I went to him once, and the guy was 300 pounds overweight, and I'm not kidding you. And he was talking to me about health and eating and how bad microwaves were for you. And I'm just sitting here thinking, buddy, the last thing you need to worry about right now is a microwave. Cooking your food. What you need to worry about is the food that you're cooking and eating that you shouldn't be, and how much of it, you know? So you should look the part to a degree. You should act the part, right? You should behave in the manner in your lifestyle that you're trying to preach to other people. And again, these 3 things that I've talked about so far all have to do with approaching people about the topic of health. What do I think I could have done differently in the scenario that kind of caused me to want to do this video? Maybe my tone, maybe a different setting, maybe over coffee and going at it that way, right? There's always something you could have done a little bit different. We're never going to be free of making mistakes, right? We're never going to read every situation correctly. You know, that's kind of the next thing I want to talk about is you can't let the fear of it going the wrong way or being misinterpreted stop you from ever wanting to try and help people, okay? And there are people that do that. I'll give you, and I use myself as an example so I don't want folks to think I'm trying to pick on people, okay? I've mentioned it several times already on a couple of these walks. The things I have great interest in, right? History and politics, theology and religion, and everything and anything in the world of lifting and bodybuilding and strongman and powerlifting, the nutrition that goes behind it and all that. I don't get down into the big word scientific, you know, meanings and all that stuff, although I do read that stuff, because 98% of the people don't care about that, right? So I learned as time went on, you know, the way I like to consume information and then share it. In the beginning, when I would start to share those people with it, whatever, any one of those topics, my tact was lacking, okay? And that's part of being younger, being zealous, being eager, and being prideful. And it isn't until you get older and you get your feet taken out from underneath you several times, you get kicked in the ribs, you know, a few times, dejected, rejected, that kind of thing, and you're left wondering, why am I even trying? Why am I bothering with this? And when you're younger, you don't really reflect you might be the problem, right? So there was a time in, let's say, my church world. I still attend a church faithfully, but early on, where I had a lot of knowledge, but I wasn't always compassionate about how I delivered my message, right? I didn't pay attention to the context, the surroundings, the feelings and the things that the individual might have been going through, the consequences of some of the actions that they might have had to make. All right, so I'm going to take a short break here real quick. I got to talk to somebody, and I'll be right back. All right, guys. So, like I was saying, early on in my youth, when I tried to share things with people, book knowledge, that type of thing, I had to learn to take all the other considerations that I've already talked about in the beginning of this video into consideration. And for a while there, I decided to just mute myself. When topics would come up, questions were asked, even if people asked me directly, I would just say, yeah, and I'd just stay out of it. And that lasted for probably several years. And there were questions asked to me, and there were statements made as to why, and it basically boiled down to, well, it appears that no matter what I say, people take it this way, people take it that way. So I figured, why have everybody think that I'm just trying to be a know-it-all when I could just sit here and be quiet and let people discuss things amongst themselves, right? And then I had a couple of wise men, as years went on, tell me, some of that might be true, some of that might be the way that it is, but it doesn't mean that you stop using the skills and the talents that you have, especially when it comes to helping other people. If you have a skill that can help humanity, you should share it, all right? I'm not telling you shouldn't get paid for your labors and all that type of thing. I'm just saying, when it comes to caring about your fellow human being, if you have advice and skill that could help them, I do believe that you're obliged to help, okay? So we can't just sit and be mute for the rest of our lives because we're afraid somebody's going to take it the wrong way. Because another thing I've learned, there's always going to be somebody that takes it the wrong way. Regardless of how much thought and care and love and everything else you put into something, there will be always somebody who takes it the wrong way. Because there are people who just want to be miserable. And that's just the way that it is. So that's another thing I've learned as I've gotten older, is the old saying is, you can't please everybody. Because if you're trying to please everybody and you are pleasing everybody, you're not accomplishing anything. Anytime you step into a role of leadership or influence, or you're thrust into it, or however you end up there, you're not going to make everyone happy with how you manage, with how you give advice, with how you teach, with how you, whatever it is that you do. You're just not going to make them all happy. It's impossible. Okay? You can't put just two people in one house, meaning a married couple, and have them both be happy all the time. They're humans. Okay? We're messed up by nature, right? And we get offended, we get mad, and a husband and wife, my wife and I have been married 23 years this past Sunday. And there's just times we're not happy with each other, right? But what we've learned is that doesn't mean that we don't care, we don't have things to offer. It just means we have to learn to pick our battles, to pick the right time to talk about whatever it is we need to talk about. And if anybody's good at this in my relationship, it's my wife for sure. If anybody's taught me that skill, it's definitely her. All right? And we need to be willing to learn from others, even people that are in positions of influence and leadership. You're not above reproach. You're not above being taught by the people that you would consider quote unquote under you, right? We're all equal in this in one sense, that we're all humans. We're not all equal in the sense of what our roles and responsibilities are and the consequences that go along with that. It's a true statement, to whom much is given, much is required. And take that with how you will, all right? I'm not even going to say take it with a grain of salt, because it is what it is. You've been given a lot. You have a lot that's going to be required of you. And to sit on a skill or a talent that can help others, that's not a good thing. So, the first few things I covered, let me try and recap off the top of my head, is Are you the type of person that people want to be approached by? Have you proven yourself? Do you look the part? Do you actually have the knowledge of what you're trying to share with other people? And, you know, are you willing to accept the fact that you might not know everything, or that you might not know how to deliver everything that you have to share with people, and that other people around you who might have that skill set can help you be a better person? It's kind of a trade-off, right? You're sharing with them what you have that can help them, and vice versa. Now I want to talk about being the person who somebody wants to approach, okay? And this is where it probably gets a little bit more tricky. So I'm going to try and choose my words carefully and be as kind and compassionate as I can. If someone approaches you about your health, try the best you can. If this is a person that you trust and love and care about, and you know has your best interest at heart, try the best you can to understand and accept and believe that what they are trying to share with you or encourage you in or help you with is for your own benefit and your own good. If you can do that, it's going to remove a lot of the sting about what they might have to say. And let's just be honest, we're all touchy when it comes to our health, our physical appearance, our body composition, whether you're overweight, underweight, somewhere in between, whatever it is, right? We're all touchy. We kind of live in a society where it's almost celebrated to be easily offended. And we kind of need to just get back to, I'm just going to say it, the 80 kids kind of mentality, where you didn't let things like that bother you too much. You grew thick skin and you kind of rolled with the punches, right? I'm not justifying how people might say it or treat you. I already explained that in the beginning, but I'm talking to being the person being approached. The more that you can thicken up your skin, the more that you can try and automatically assume that this person or persons have your best interests at heart, okay, the better off you're going to be. The more open and unoffended you will be able to be in receiving whatever it is that you're trying to share, okay? So, assume that they have the best and have the skin and attitude that I'm going to listen to what they have to say because they've already earned my trust. I know they care for me, I know they love me, and I know they're only trying to help. So, I've already gone a little over 30 minutes. If I can just sum it up, if I didn't babble on too much, because this was kind of an unexpected talk tonight. But hey, that's cool with me because I think it's something that should have been shared and should have been talked about. So to sum everything up, if you want to be the person that can try and influence people and help other people with whatever wisdom you have on whatever topic that you're trying to share, be the person that they would want to listen to. And you can only do that if you've proven yourself over time. You don't get to walk up to Sister Sally in church, or Joe Beth, your coworker, or, you know, Mr. Old Joe at the gym, and offer your advice when you've done nothing to prove yourself to them that you're a caring individual. You know, if it is Sister Sally in the church, have you proven yourself that you're a kind, compassionate, caring Christian who gives himself in service and does what he can to help other people? You say, well, I'm new. Okay, take your time, take it slow. Who knows why you're new? I'm new in a church right now, only been there a year, and there's a lot that goes behind that, and a lot of people know about it, okay? And I'm quite reserved and have yet to really offer a lot of things, but to certain individuals, yes. You know, Mr. Joe, the old guy at the gym. You know, you see him with terrible form and that kind of stuff. Well, have you proven yourself in the gym that, number one, you know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about, you can back it up with a physique? Has he seen you share that information with other people in a friendly kind of a manner? Has he seen people come up to you unsolicited for your advice? Okay, those are all going to be cues that, hey, this is somebody that I should listen to, right? Maybe it is that co-worker dude that you're working with, right? Can't remember the name I gave him, but anyway, you want to give a co-worker advice in the field that you're supposed to be an expert at. Well, how do you do your job? Are you a lazy bum? Do you push everything off on everybody else? You know? Or do you show that you know your job, care about your job? They see other people knowing that you do your job. They hear people talk about how good you are at your job and how you're a nice guy or gal, that type of thing, right? It doesn't matter what area of life. If you've been doing it long enough, you're going to have some advice to share with those who don't have as much knowledge about that topic as you. Just be the person that they want to listen to. And on the other side, none of us know everything, and we need to be willing to trust the people that we know care about us or have demonstrated in one way or another that other people trust and care about what they have to say and offer, and willing to take that advice. Okay? In the end, everybody's going to be better for it. Everybody's going to benefit from it. The person receiving the advice now has the tools that they need to help be better in whatever area it is that the more knowledgeable person shared with you. And the person sharing the advice can feel fulfilled that they've passed on something that they care about and have knowledge on. And that literally is what the best part about being a person of influence. I do not want to use the word influencer. that name's already been ruined before it even got out of the gate, really. But being somebody who desires to share what they know with people is the fulfillment when somebody accepts it, applies it, and you see them prospering from it. I can name young people at work, because I'm the old guy now. I can name people over the years within the church community that we've helped, and I have dozens, if not more, if I tracked it all the way back, a lot, let's just say hundreds of people that I believe I've helped in one way, shape, or another in the world of lifting. Whether it's just an encouragement, a spot at the gym, and telling them, hey, fix this and it'll help, or a meal plan, or whatever it is, okay? Because I've had people come back and tell me that. You know, I'll close with this. I used to run a jail ministry with a church that we used to attend. And I can't count how many guys in that jail ministry I have met out in public, and it would be difficult to recognize them because they'd be in street clothes and have their hair cut by the time they were out in public, right? And just come up to me and hey, Brother Webb, I'm so-and-so, and sometimes I wouldn't recognize them, sometimes I would. I just really want to tell you, man, what you told me in there is helped a lot, and I'm getting a job, and I'm going to try and make things right. Even years after, and that ministry ended way back in 2013. December of 2013, that was the last time. So, it's 13 years ago. Whatever, my math isn't mathing right now. Yeah, 13 years ago almost. And it just feels good, you know? It's fulfilling to know that you actually shared something with somebody and it stuck with them, not just for a little while, but for over a decade, okay? For me personally, when I finally am called off of this earth to go be with my Creator, I want, as a legacy, one thing to be said. From my kids, from the friends of my kids who we welcome into our home, the people I've come in contact in any way, shape, or form and had extended conversations or relationships or whatever it is. I want to be known as the guy, he cared, he helped, and he's just a good dude. I don't care about anything else, to tell you the truth, because you can't take nothing else with you but what you can leave behind as a legacy of being the person, man or woman, that cared about other people, even with all their faults, all your own faults. He was a good dude and he cared. So with that, I hope this was a good one. I hope it helps. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. It really doesn't cost you anything. You know, maybe you just stumbled across this and it's the first time you ever watch. You might not ever watch again. I got a goal set. I'm trying to hit 300 subscribers by the time the weekend's over. Is it a high and lofty goal? Probably, but what's the point of having a goal if it isn't difficult to hit, right? You're not really going to appreciate it. So if you can help me out, press a like button here or two. Again, that don't cost you nothing. And for sure, if you want to talk about anything, leave comments down there. You got questions, you want to rant and rave and call me bad names, I got pretty big shoulders. I can take it. All right, talk to you guys on the next one.